You got Mac and Mac, McMullen and McDonald. Johnny Mac's got to run in 40 minutes or so Bill Colarulo's going to jump in for him in hour number 2. But you and I are going to get the chance to talk to Paul Domowitch in the 33rd team, and JAKIBSports.com saw the stat pack already up this morning. We'll certainly hit on a couple of those things, Domo, but I did mention this right before we went to break, so I want to get your thought on it. Last year, Eagles were so far and away the best team in the NFL. In the second quarter, it was ridiculous that they just had this knack for scoring a ton of points in the second quarter. I think part of it is that they always win the toss and defer, so they're not getting the ball in the first quarter, which means that many more possessions in the second quarter, and they haven't won as many tosses this year. They've been getting the ball first. The other team's been winning the coin toss. Coincidence? Doing something different? Why have they gone from a team that's dominated like no other in the NFL in the second quarter to just an average everyday NFL second quarter team?
Well, Jody, I think it just has to do with the fact that their offense has been so sluggish. Just it's taken them a while to get going. I mean, I look at it as the entire first half. I mean, last year they put up nearly 300 points in the first half. Which was clearly far and away the most in the league. Their first half point differential last year was like plus 121, which again was the most in the league. I think right now it's plus 18. Thankfully for them, the defense has played really well in the first quarter. They haven't given up a point yet. So teams haven't been able to take advantage of stopping the Eagles early. But the Eagles' first 3 possessions, if you look at them this year in the first 3 games, they've only got 9 first downs on those 3 possessions. They're averaging like 3.7 a play. So it's just, I mean, the offense just is having trouble getting going. And then they, eventually at some point they go to the run and, it's lights out.
Yeah, I mean, that aspect of it, Damo, because obviously when we talk about the offensive struggles, it's the passing game. It's not the running game. The running game has been tremendous. Now, the Eagles will tell you it has to do with the 3 coordinators they opened the season with. And
yeah,
I buy some of it for this reason, Damo. That's not something they came up with. That's something they were talking about in the preseason. They knew they were going to get a bunch of unscouted looks, quirky looks, and specifically from those 3, Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, Todd Bowles. And now Dallas Goedert said this week they expect more traditional NFL offenses. So is this sort of the cusp of defenses? Sorry. Is this sort of the cusp of, if the passing game doesn't show up this week, maybe the alarm bells start ringing?
Could be. I mean, teams going forward are going to look at these last 3 games and see what worked against them. I mean, right now, I mean, I'm not piling on Jalen here. He's played well in a lot of ways, but he's the one that has to adjust to what he's seeing out there. He's the one that has to adjust all these zone coverages that they're throwing at him. I mean, he had the 2 interceptions last week, but he also had about 5 or 6 other poor passes that were either a product of miscommunication with his receivers. I remember one, there was to Goddard where, he clearly was looking for Goddard to stay outside on a route and Goddard come, those kind of things. They need to work out. I think he will, because, I mean, I think Jalen's just too good a quarterback not to. But, I mean, teams are going to take away the run on him. They're going to try and keep him in the pocket. So it's just a matter of, are they going to keep pounding it? At some point, they're going to come across some teams that are not going to let them have 200 yards rushing a game. But I think, they've still got aspects of this offense they haven't tapped yet. I can't remember if it was Nick or Brian Johnson who made a reference this week, I think, to, we really haven't used Swift as a receiver yet. You're going to see that. You're going to see Gainwell and Swift because I mean, you can only take away so many weapons.
Yeah.
So they need to, Yeah, but it goes back to, I think, in my mind, to just Jalen adjusting to what he's seeing and react quicker.
And oh, by the way, last year the Eagles averaged 29 points a game. This year, averaging 28. So it's not that big a drop off. Just looking at points, it's you get those points that motivates everyone to question things.
And consecutive games, Damo, which I know you know, they're over 425 yards and 200 rushing yards for the first time since 1950. So it's not like they haven't been successful on offense. It's just unconventional, and people want to see A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert get the football.
But teams are saying we're not going to let you have that. You know, it's just, so exactly. I know people hate to hear take what they're giving you, but I mean, they can take away the deep ball from anybody. I mean, you could take it away from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle if you want to. But you're sacrificing a lot underneath. They're just making the Eagles 10, 11, 12 point play drives with the attitude that they're going to make a mistake somewhere along the line. I mean, that's basically the approach defenses are taking right now.
Yeah.
Damo,
it gets ugly. It gets ugly at times because, sorry, Jody. I was talking to somebody and they said, specifically when they're talking about Flores, like, who else is going to sit in that for the entire second half? Eventually you're going to come out of it because you're getting gas. He just sat in it, and the Eagles were like, all right, well, we'll just, we'll take that 18-wheeler hole and just run the football down the field, and it worked. So I have a tough time criticizing them at this point. And from a defensive coordinator standpoint, and I'll throw this at both of you guys, you got to pick your poison, right? So I'm still trying to stop AJ and Devontae and Dallas before DeAndre. That's not an insult to DeAndre, but those guys are superstars at their position. That's the way I would go at it as well, I think. Now, maybe if it continues, you got to start rethinking it. But it makes sense to me from the opposition standpoint.
Here's where it didn't make sense to me. From the guys, the three defensive coordinators, you're giving a lot of credit. I get it coming into every game. Which am I going to stop first? The Eagles passing game or running? Which can hurt me more? Eagles passing game. All right, so we're going to play our defense accordingly. When they've run it down your throat, you got to be quicker to the trigger to change over, to make some adjustments. And I think their three opponents have been a little slow to the trigger finger to go, oh, shoot, they're running it down our throats. Maybe we need to add a little extra guy to the box here. And these three guys are all supposed to be geniuses, but I thought that they can.
Yeah, well, the Eagles were surprised, like I said, specifically with Flores. They're like, who else is going to sit in that for that long? And probably nobody. And that's why they think things will slow down a little bit this week and become more traditional moving forward. And they're probably right, but we'll have to see how Jack Del Rio handles it. But I think it's going to be more traditional defense than they've seen the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, your defensive coordinator, I don't think any of them counted on DeAndre Swift averaging 8, what's he, almost 7?
They did not. They did not.
He had, I think I counted, what do you have, 16 carries on Monday night. I think 7 or 8 of them were for 8 yards or more.
Yeah.
A couple that were like 24 and 29 yards. You don't, that's not part of any kind of plan where you're allowing those kind of big chunk run plays.
And that's the best run defense in football for 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
And they're giving up 8 yards a chunk. It's pretty amazing, the Eagles.
Yeah.
Offensive
line.
line.
Speaking of running the football, as in not running the football, we've talked about this before with you. I just want to get your thoughts again because it refuses to go away as a talking point, and that would be the cheek sneak. Jack Del Rio, who might be the first coach that I can remember. Media members, fans have had opinions on it. The coaches have kept and he came out and just said it's not a football play, shouldn't be in our game, which, okay, fine. Here's what I would say to Jack Del Rio et al. With the Commanders. Why don't you do it? why don't you get good enough to make it part of your offensive arsenal as well? All right, yeah, you can't stop it. Nobody can stop it. Okay, fine. Well, then run it yourself and make the other team pay a price. Why is it this god awful? And I don't love the play. And when people call it a rugby play, I find myself shaking my head, going, "Yeah, it is." But until they say it's out, it's in.
Has anybody watched rugby? Like, I blame Peter King for that, and Jack Del Rio kind of about that. They don't watch rugby.
Rugby play here on Bird Street 65 before Peter King did.
It's an ugly play, but I mean, it's not a rugby play. I guess they're saying rugby scrum, but it's not a rugby scrum. It's an ugly play, like the bubble screen's an ugly play, but it's legal. My whole thing is, Damo, they're getting the quarterback sneak anyway. Without it's like putting rims on your car. All right, it might look better, it might look cooler. Jalen is the issue because he can deadlift 600 pounds. Yeah. So he's converting the quarterback sneak anyway with nobody helping him. And these other teams go, well, maybe we'll push, but they got a quarterback that can't get the sneak because they can't deadlift 600 pounds. And to me, it's a big nothing burger. Other than it's an ugly play. That I can agree with. But who cares? There's a lot of ugly plays.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Jalen's one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league. I also got to give credit to Kelsey and Dickerson and that offensive line, which plays a key part. But yeah, JJ White, I saw a tweet from him yesterday, and that was essentially what he said, John. I mean, he didn't like it. I mean, he's not crazy about it, the look of it. He said, but even if they didn't use it, they're not going to stop Jalen from getting it. So it's just my question, and because I'm not out there, I haven't had a chance to ask Nick this, but like last year, I mean, it's been legal since 2005. It was only last year, after his first year with the Eagles, that he decided, hey, let's formalize this, choreograph it, and use it as a play. I was curious what bells went off in his head during the offseason.
Well, I think it's as simple as he found out his quarterback could deadlift 600 pounds. So it's far more effective for them. He used to have Phillip Rivers. He ain't running the quarterback sneak with Phillip Rivers. He loves, as you know, he loves Phillip. But I mean, he's a smart guy. He's not going to run sneaks with Phillip Rivers. I think. And I tried to get Brian Johnson to go down that route yesterday. I asked him, he's a former quarterback. How much is it on the quarterback? Because to me, this whole thing, look, Kelsey's great. Landon Dickerson's, unbelievably strong. I think he's a big part of it as well. But the biggest part is Jalen Hurts. Yeah. I mean, I think people are missing that aspect of it. Most quarterbacks aren't that strong. That's what it comes down to.
Not with their lower body. No. Yeah. It's funny also. What you're hearing a lot more from fans right now is, teams are going to start trying to hurt him, which I always love. So yeah,
Chris said that yesterday.
But they're always trying to hurt him. Yeah.
I mean, the days of players trying to grab the other guy's genitals and stuff like that there's too many cameras now. No matter how deep in the pile you are, you're going to get caught and you're going to get thrown out of the league.
Well, Chris Sims went down that route, and he made I think he said, kill him. Yeah. And, you had these disingenuous people like Chris Sims, who I don't like. I mean, he says goofy things, but he's not advocating first-degree murder. He's saying, in a football sense, make him pay for it. So I get both sides of the equation. You do, as a defensive player, you want to make him pay for it. But the days of Bounty Gates and Sean Payton getting suspended for trying to take out Brett Favre, he and Greg Williams, that stuff still, I'm not going to say it still happens, but guys want to hit people when they get the opportunity, and they want to make them feel it. And that's pro football. And if you don't like it, I'm okay with that. But to pretend it doesn't exist anymore, I think it's disingenuous as well.
And the funny thing about it is, for me, elevating what Sim said yesterday, there's not time to build up speed to actually hit someone and hurt someone. It's all just strength on strength. There's no force to it. So how much are you going to be able to kill a guy? As Sim said, if he's only going 3 steps and that gives him a first down, the play doesn't lend itself to killing someone on the other team.
No.
Yeah, I always felt it's one of the. It might be one of the safest.
One of the safest days. Yeah, I think Mahomes got hurt on a sneak once.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last year, weren't we, Jody?
Yeah,
I think Patrick Mahomes got hurt.
But I don't. It wasn't a tush push because I don't.
No.
Think Andy Reid ever did anything like that. So
no. But you have seen some linebackers launching at him. So they're trying to make him pay. But yeah, I mean, it's a safe play, and you know that's part of it as well. There's only so much you can do. Yeah, I don't see a problem with it other than Jody can tell you, Damo, I always said Jalen's going to get it anyway. I said this dating back to last year. I think it would be better for the Eagles if they banned it because they're still getting quarterback sneaks, and other teams may get a little help from shoving the quarterback. But the Eagles don't really need it.
Here's the saddest thing, John. No one in the league has developed it like the Eagles. Not even close. So why hasn't everybody else? If everyone can see the percentages and damn, the Eagles got the 90% of the time they convert. Why hasn't anyone else been good enough to develop their quarterback? Because they don't have Jalen Hurts. You're right. That's the answer. But I would say shame on the rest of the league for not at least attempting to make that part of their arsenal.
I mean, still, this is a shameless copycat league. I mean, they've coaches steal everything. I mean, there hasn't really been an original.
They stole that. It's the Bush push. Before it was the tush push, it was the Bush push. That's where it came from.
Exactly. And yet, for them to be reluctant to copy this, I think it's because it looks so bad. If it were a play that kind of looked crafty, they would say, we're going to take that and use it too. But I think they're reluctant for that reason because so many people are ripping it and criticizing it and calling it rugby.
All right, Damo, the tush push aside, the Eagles have not been as good in the red zone this year as they were last year. I know it's only a 3-game sample, and if you're looking as comparing 17 games, 3 games, it's a little disproportionate, but that they just haven't been as good. And it's a very good thing that they've got Mr. Money in the Bank, Jake Elliott, to bang through 3 points rather than come away with nothing. Why do you think they've been less effective in the red zone?
Well, they're 1 for 5 on Monday night, I think, in the red zone.
One of them is faux because one came on that last drive when they didn't try to. So I'm going to call them 1 for 4.
I think it's all about defenses defend. I mean, we talked earlier about defenses defending Jalen. That's where they really, during the offseason, put a lot of time and tape watching into stopping him in that inside the 20. Last year they were the most lopsided team in the red zone as far as run play percentage. I mean, they just always ran it inside the red zone. He had only 9 red zone touchdown passes, I think, in the red zone last year, which was among the lowest in the league. But it didn't matter that they were one of the best red zone teams because they just pounded it in there. And he was able to, RPOs and use the run, keepers. Well, they've decided, he's their emphasis now inside the 20. We're taking Jalen away. He's not going to run it. I mean, when he gets to the 1, they can't stop him. But so they're, this past week, they made him throw a little bit more. I think in the first 2 games, the run pass split was like 14 runs, 3 passes in the first 2 games inside the red zone. On Monday night, it was like 10 and 9, and they weren't very good at it. Jalen was 1 for 7 throwing in the red zone. He's got to get better in the red zone throwing the ball because, teams are they're focusing on the run when they get down that far. I mean, the teams obviously, until they get there, we've talked earlier about taking away the deep ball, this and that. Once they're inside the 20, it's all about stopping the run because the Eagles haven't proven they can throw the ball in the red zone. They don't, Jalen doesn't really have you go back to Carson. I mean, Carson and Zach Ertz were like, they were on the same wavelength when inside the red zone. I mean, they just thought the same way, and Zach could always get open. You look at the red zone numbers, receiving numbers with this group. None of them last year. I think nobody had more than 7 or 8 catches inside the red zone. AJ Brown, all those 95 catches, and 7 were in the red zone. So that's where they need to get better, more so than the rest of the field. They need to get better throwing the ball inside the 20 because teams are taking away the run.
All right, to further that point, I tried to start this week, Damo. I asked Nick and Brian, and it's going to pick up during Miami week. Motion. Mike McDaniel is the rage of the NFL right now, coming off a 70-point game. He could have broke the record if he wanted to. 726-yard game. They use motion on 59% of their snaps. The Eagles don't motion. They don't do it. They haven't done it since Nick got here. They're always bottom 5 in the league. And he says you never want to be bottom 5 in anything except motion. Is that part of the lack of creativity in the passing game in the red zone when you have those close quarters? Sometimes you got to get people moving, and Mike McDaniel's proven that. Why are the Eagles so hesitant to do it?
Well, I saw his quote, his response to you, John. What was it? Well, there's got to be a point to it.
Yeah, there's got to be. We don't motion just for the sake of motioning.
Well, make a point.
Find make the point. Yeah. Look at my. I didn't want to bring up Mike at this stage, Mike McDaniel, because we'll get to that. But that's who I'm laying the groundwork. I mean, if Miami keeps being successful at this rate, and he's fooling people, Jim Schwartz used to call it eyewash, and people lack discipline, defenders, when that happens. The Eagles just, they say, well, we run a lot of empty sets, a lot of tempo. It's tough to motion. And as you mentioned, we don't motion just for the sake of motion. Yeah, all right. Well, then create a play where you need motion would be my argument. Maybe that helps you in the red zone specifically. Yeah.
I'd be interested in like Brian's history in college. With the teams, at Florida, at Houston, Utah, Mississippi State, was there much motion there? I'm sure with Nick, you go back to even his dad. They never put a lot of motion in their offense because that would explain why he doesn't feel very strongly that they should use it now. But mix it up. Do anything you can to confuse the opponent. I mean, that's the whole idea. And you learn a lot when you motion. You learn, starters, you find out if they're in zone or man. Now, the Eagles obviously have their own ways of doing that. But, I don't understand it, and only Nick knows the answer to it.
All right, since we're questioning offensive coordinators, why don't we question the offensive coordinator of the Commanders? Eric Bieniemy came in, a lot of pomp and circumstance, the coordinator of 2 Super Bowl winning teams, even if Andy Reid was their play caller. And their offense to this point has been nothing special. Certainly it was awful last week against Buffalo's defense. What do you think Bieniemy has up his sleeve to deal with the Eagles defense the way that they're playing right now? Because I think the Eagles have a chance to score 30 points against Washington's defense this week, which means the Commanders are going to have to keep up with that. I'm finding a tough time coming up with a game plan that's going to get 30 points against this Eagle defense for the Commanders. What do you think Bieniemy's got up his sleeve?
Well, I think probably the meeting with Sam Howell went kind of something like this, like, Sam, get the ball out quick because they're coming after you. They're basically a running team. I mean, Howell's been, that's their strength. Unfortunately, they're facing one of the best run defenses in the league. And, they've given up a league high. Sam Howell's been sacked 19 times already, 9 times last week against Buffalo. And now he's facing these guys. I mean, you look at it and you just say, this is going to be ugly. I don't know how. I don't know what Eric does. I don't know how you throw a lot of screens, I guess, and hope you can kind of slow up that pass rush. Because I mean, I don't see that run game being very effective against these guys. For all the talk about the problems they've had with linebacker and safety injury wise and stuff, this run defense is, I mean, mainly, because you got Jordan Davis in the middle, just like grabbing people as they try to get by him. That run defense, which last year was like 17th in the league. I mean, and had some days when they couldn't stop anybody, including the second half against Kansas City. I mean, now is just ferocious, and that's without sacrificing a pass rush. It's pretty impressive.
One thing I look at is the slot right now, Damo, because obviously the Eagles are down Devontae Maddox, Zach McPherson, now potentially Sidney Brown, which was a surprise putting him in there. Now seems to be the long-term plan. He might not play this week. And this week you have more of a traditional, shifty slot guy, Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, James Bradbury, you're going to put James in there at 6'2", big long guy against manufactured touch player. Might be something. If I'm Eric Bieniemy, that's what I'm looking at. You mentioned quick screens, yards after catch, because they're not going to be able to hold up on the offensive line. That's all I got if I'm Eric Bieniemy. I want to take advantage of that slot position.
Tight ends in the middle, the field. Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Bradbury this week. I mean, I still think trade deadline is October 31st, I think. The one move they need to make is they got to go get themselves a slot corner. That's the one weakness, the one concern I have about this defense right now. Safety wise, I think they're going to be fine once, Sydney, I think Brown and Reed Blankenship are long-term going to be a pair of outstanding safeties.
Reed is a great player, Paul.
Yeah,
How
really
the NFL miss Reed Blankenship? But Jody and I were talking about that yesterday. He doesn't have bad traits, athleticism-wise. Obviously, he played at a smaller school. He's a 5-year starter, very successful. Ran a 4.55. Had, all the numbers are there. Everybody missed him. How does that happen?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you're right. Usually it's a number that kills a guy and gets him dropped to the undrafted line. But 4.5 for a safety is pretty damn good. Everything else was fine. The experience, everything, the intelligence is off the charts. I have no idea. I'm sure Howie's just thankful that he was there and they signed him.
Right. Yeah. And the Eagles would like to take a deep bow for that one. You can't when you give guys
they didn't. They gave him $5,000.
It's like, okay, you want to come in and compete with 90? Yeah. They didn't know this was going to happen either. So they're smarter than everybody else, but it doesn't make them really all that smart with the level that Blankenship's gotten to already. All right, one thing we got to talk about before we let you run, Damo. We are underselling, or at least by the questions we've asked you so far, and John and Mike's first segment, we haven't mentioned the defensive line of the Redskins and the Commanders, excuse me. The Eagles' defensive line has been, although not getting sacks, just stone cold dominant the first 3 games. The Commanders' defensive line is pretty damn good, too. If they're going to hang in this game, it's going to be because of their defensive line. That's their strongest unit. I think the Eagles' strongest unit right now is their defensive line, and certainly the Commanders' defensive line is their strongest unit on their team. We all sing the praises of the Eagles' offensive line is the best in the business. Are they going to be tested this week by that Washington defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, if they're going to beat you some way, it's going to be putting pressure on Jalen. But I mean, that's why it's strength versus strength. I think you'll see the Eagles run a lot of screens to do the same thing that Washington's probably going to try to do to the Eagles pass rush, slow it down a little bit. You're going to see that run game maybe crank up a little earlier to slow them down and force them to wonder what what's coming next. But yeah, I mean, that's what, that's Washington's only chance of winning this game is get pressure on Jalen.
Yeah. And we talk about the Eagles, and their pressure rate has been tremendous. I think Jalen Carter is 15. Josh has 13.
Yeah.
Reddick has 10. If you look at Washington, Sweat's got 13. Allen's got 13. Chase Young's got 10. Deron Payne's their big guy in the middle. He's got 6. They're good. They're good up front. But as you mentioned, Damo, it's strength versus strength. The Eagles have the best. Yeah. They might have the most talented defensive line. The Eagles have the most talented offensive line. So I think it might look worse than normal for the Eagles offensive line, but they're still going to be. They're not going to fall apart. As good as Washington is. But Jody's right. That Washington front is something. Now that Chase Young is healthy,
legit.
Yeah. I think Sirianni and Johnson might attack him a little differently. Maybe move Jalen to the outside a little bit more. Rolling. What? Sorry about that, guys.
Siri popping in.
What's Siri have to say?
She does that.
Did Siri say lay the points with the Eagles? I got to know. Is Siri in on the game?
Well, that's it. We did it at P Damo. Make sure you follow Paul on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. 33rd team. Check out his stat package for this week. Always good stuff. You get the tush push numbers, the brotherly shove numbers. Nick Sirianni wants us to call it the brotherly shove. JAKIBsports.com. Yeah, I got to give my prediction. What's your prediction, Damo?
I'm going to go 30-17.
Ooh, all right. Easy peasy.
Yeah,
4-0.
It's going to be close. And I think we might see some, Jody started this segment with, the slow starts, the second quarter. I think they're going to come out shooting. I think that the first half's going to be big this week.
Damo, great stuff. Appreciate you jumping in with us. Thank you much. We'll talk to you again next Friday. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Damo.
You got to read Damo's stat pack on JAKIBsports.com. Outstanding stuff. We touched on a bunch of it there. You get more of the details if you're at the website, JAKIBsports.com. All right. Yeah, McMullen, I guess we need you on the record as well. What was it? You and Ed who agreed on a score earlier this year that you had the exact same score?
Exact same score, yeah.
I hate to say this. I've got written down on my little sheet of paper right here. Eagles 30, Commanders 17.
Oh, nice.
I can make it 30-18 just to be different than Damo, but I had the Eagles scoring 30
with
points.
What you had. Stick with what you had.
The thing I was debating is how many I thought the Commanders would score. I thought the Eagles were going to score 30. 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, boom, get out the door. 30 points for Philadelphia, which is going to win the game. The question is, how many points will they give up to the Commanders? Yeah, I wrote down 30-17, so
stick with it.
I shouldn't change it just because Damo came up with the same exact score.
That's
I'm going with 30-17.
Yeah, I'm buying into the division games tend to be a little bit closer than you expect mentality. The Eagles are going to win the game. It's just a matter of how difficult it is. I think it's going to be, and it might even be late. It might not even be that close, but I think it ends up as like a 27-20 game, and maybe it's 27-13. You get a late garbage touchdown. I don't think they're going to be in danger, but I think maybe have that backdoor cover. What are the Eagles' favorite by? 8.5?
8.5, yeah.
Yeah, a backdoor cover for Washington type of thing.
And here's the bad news if you're an Eagle fan. If they get that last score with about 6 minutes to go, the Eagles will just run out the clock like they did last week. Yeah. The 4 minutes offense becomes the 9-minute offense. Maybe this week it only needs to be the 6-minute offense. But if they've got to be able to run it out at the end, you're going to want the retaliatory score. You might not get it. I think they'll be up by enough. I think Washington will score last. I think it'll be the same exact thing. but it could be a dominating 30-10 like score.
Yeah, it could be. I think they're going to overcorrect. I think that Buffalo game hurt the Eagles because they're going to overcorrect. They're going to max protect. As Damo said, they're going to drill into Sam Howell's head all week. Football's got to come out. Football's got to come out. Football's got to come out. Now he's a young quarterback. He might not listen, but I think they're going to overcorrect.
Here's the problem. Here's why I'm very confident the Eagles are going to win, because I think that is a key aspect of this game. The Eagles are going to get pressure because they do. Will they get sacks? Maybe, maybe not, but they're going to get the tremendous push. They're getting up the middle from their stud DTs, and yeah, maybe it opens some things up for the guys on the end. We can sit there and say it. The coaches can say it. Sam Howell is not good at the quick release play. He likes to drop back 5 steps. That's when he's been at his best at North Carolina. The first 2 games of this the Commanders season, he doesn't like the 3-step drop and just get it out. Everyone may know it's coming or should be coming, but the quarterback then actually has to be able to do it.
Yeah,
and I don't think Sam Howell can do it. Despite when Ed Kratz says, I don't think Sam Howell's that good. I don't think he's got that bow in his quiver. So we can all talk about it, but I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off.
Well, I remember hating that North Carolina offense because it was so RPO driven with Sam Howell. So maybe they go back to that. He would be clapping at the line of scrimmage, and they would run this ugly RPOs 97% of the time. So maybe they go back to that, and he's got to get the football out quickly. If you force him to, you force him to. But it's just the nature of the NFL. When something like that happens, you spend your entire week probably to an over analyzing degree trying to fix that one aspect. And that's why I think it'll be a little bit better, even though the Eagles technically have a better pass rush than Buffalo. I would bet the under on 9 sacks is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The Eagles haven't shown a propensity to get those sacks just yet, so I'll take under 9 as well. And if they bring in the RPO with the kind of play they're getting from the defensive, the key to stopping the RPOs is get that first guy to make it more difficult on the quarterback. Then the quarterback's got to decide which player he's going to key on and make that decision thereafter. But it all starts right in the middle. And the Eagles are stone cold dominating right in the middle right now. So
3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's how they beat them last time. All you need is 3 yards.
Last year they didn't have Jalen Carter playing at the level that he's playing at. Good luck with it. I'm telling you, it's not happening this year. All right, Johnny Mac, safe travels over to South Philly.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Jody, and thanks, Bill. I see him in the green room. Eagles 4-0, baby.
That's right. Will they get to the 8-0 that they did last year? You got that Miami game circled, but no stumbling this year against Washington at home as they did last year. All right. I'm coming back here for hour number 2 on Birds 365. I will be joined by Bill Colarulo, so he's jumping in for Johnny Mac. We'll go behind enemy lines. Grant Paulson from 106.7 FM down in D.C. Will jump in with us and give us a Washington point of view in hour number 2 here on Birds 365.